Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Hannah. Today I'm going to be going over a couple linked list operations in Java. So I already tried to record this video once and I didn't have my microphone plugged in, so it had no audio. So I have pretty much everything already written out and I'm just going to show you, kind of go over it and show you how it works. Now, if you were to be working with Java, there is a package that you can import that has linked lists and has all the functions that you need to manipulate the list. So it's a lot easier than what I have here, but this is what interviewers are going to ask you for. They're going to ask if you understand what it is that a linked list does and how it works. So the first thing is I implemented a node called head and a little constructor for the node class. So I have my next pointer and my data. So the element, so we made this an integer. So this is a list of integers. And then I went ahead and created this add element, which is like a push function. It adds an element to the very front of the list. So here is the code for that. I created a node called temp. It takes the new data that you want to enter into the list as an argument. So we create a new node and set it equal to that data. Then we set the next to the current head, and then we set head to the temporary node. Hopefully you can follow along, and hopefully I didn't lose you there. So I'll show you how that one works. So first things first, let's create the list. So I called my class my linked list. So what's my list going to be called? My list. New my linked list. And then we can just, what did I call that function? Just add lm, and we'll just add 13, and we'll also add 15. And then of course to display your list, I wrote this function called printList, and it's pretty simple, very similar to how we did it in C++. Created another temporary node and I set it equal to head, so the first element of your list. And so while that element is not null, so basically while the list is not empty, you print it out. On each line I have it to print out the data of the pointer. So currently at head at the first element, and then we set it to the next one. So we print it out and then set the pointer to the next element in the list. And then at the very end, I have a little message that says end of list. So now we will print the list. Oh, we don't need to do that twice. I don't know why I put that. Okay, so we got exactly what we wanted. We first added 13, and then we added 15. So 15 would be first, and then it reached the end of the list, exactly how we wanted it to. So now I will show you how to remove an element. Before I show you, I'll walk through this code to kind of explain it. So this removes any element with the instance of integer d. So whatever number you want to remove, you'll enter as the argument, and it will remove any instance of that from the list. So basically the very first, if we have to check if the head is equivalent to D a little bit differently than we check the rest of the list. So for the head, we say if head is equivalent to D, then we just get rid of head by setting head equal to next. The next element in the list that comes after head. We just set head to that, pretend head never existed. That's how we get rid of head. If it's not head in the list, though, we have to go about it a little bit differently. So I created this temporary node and set it to head. And while basically we're checking to make sure that we're not at the end of the list, this is where it gets a little confusing. I'm going to use my fingers. Okay, so here's temp. So if temp next is equivalent to D, and we want to get rid of D, then instead of the pointer to next being here, we set it to temp next. Okay? So that in effect eliminates this one right here that was equivalent to D. And then we get out of the code. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then we just set temp to temp next. And keep going through the list. Keep iterating. So I will show you how that works. Remove element. We will remove 13. So when I print it out, when I run this, it is going to print out this first list that should say 15, 13, then end of list. And then it should say, we'll get another list that says 15, and then it says end of list. Yep, 15, 13, end of list. And then when we remove the 13, we get 15, end of list. Yeah, just a couple functions that are already built into packages in Java. You don't have to write these out. You just include the package at the top of your program and you're good to go with linked lists. They're super easy to use, but interviewers want to make sure that you have a really good understanding of how these lists work, how references work, exactly how elements are being placed into the list, how it's being displayed. They just want to know that you know exactly what is going on. Like you didn't just learn how to use a linked list but don't really know what a linked list is, because that's totally possible. You can totally just use a linked list without a full understanding of it. However, a good engineer will have a good full understanding of a list. Interviewers are going to ask you way crazier questions than what I had here. They're going to ask you things like reversing lists and like adding elements to certain places in lists, deleting elements from certain places, deleting elements from the middle or something, finding the middle element of the list, just all sorts of things. So that's why it's super important to understand references, nodes, traversals. You have to understand pointers. Well, I guess they're references in Java. Just make sure you have a pretty thorough understanding of this stuff. That's all for today. If you liked it, please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!